Velastri, the sword of verdant flame. As Elian lifted it, the amulet around his neck shimmered. His mother's sapphire. The blade and gem pulsed in unison, and a vision flashed before his eyes. A wasteland, the black tower standing tall, and at its summit, Maelratha's hollow face watching him. Elian did not flinch. "I see you," he whispered. "But I am not afraid." He turned toward the moonlit window, Velastri in hand, the weight of destiny finally resting fully on his shoulders. While King Elian prepared for war and studied the growing darkness from the Black Tower, a quieter battle was being fought within the heart of Velastra, one that would shape the fate of the kingdom just as deeply. Queen Lyra had always seemed a mystery, even to those who loved her. She was not born of noble blood, and yet she held herself with a grace no court had taught. Her voice could calm riots, her songs could lift the dying. But there was something else, something ancient that stirred in her presence, something even she did not understand. And that mystery was about to awaken. One morning, while tending to the sick in the palace infirmary, Lyra heard a sound no one else could. A hum, soft and sorrowful, rising through the marble floors. It was the same note, over and over, echoing like a lullaby sung from beneath the earth. She followed it, step by step, down into the oldest levels of the palace, past the royal crypts and the Chamber of Thrones, into a hallway of carved stone that even the guards feared to enter. There, in the shadowed silence, stood a sealed doorway covered in strange vines of silver and glass. As she approached, the amulet around her neck, the sapphire teardrop Elian had given her years ago, began to glow. The vines parted. The door opened. Inside was a garden. Should have been impossible. Hidden beneath the castle for centuries was a lush, glowing grove, a place where no sun reached, yet every tree shimmered with its own light. Crystalline flowers bloomed, and silver water streams wove between mossy roots. In the center stood a massive willow tree, its bark smooth as silk, its leaves aglow with faint blue fire. Lyra stepped forward, her heart pounding. As she neared the tree, a voice entered her mind. Not spoken, not sung, but felt. "Daughter of the last choir. You have come home." Suddenly, memories not her own began to surge through her. Images of a time before Velander. A time of the echo singers. A long-lost lineage of women who could wield sound as power, music as magic. They had healed wounds, broken curses, calmed storms. And at their head was Illyris, the last echo singer. Lyra fell to her knees. "Illyris," she whispered. "That was my mother's name." The tree responded, sending a wave of energy through the grove. "Your blood remembers. The world forgets. But it is time to awaken your song." For days, Lyra remained in the grove, listening, learning. She discovered that her songs were not just beautiful. They were spells woven from the deepest parts of her soul. With a single verse, she could mend shattered stone. With a chorus, she could lull nightmares back into sleep. The gift had always been in her, dormant, waiting for the right moment to bloom. The Black Tower's magic was one of silence, of hollowing the world. But Lyra's gift was its opposite. Life through sound. She was not just a singer. She was a keeper of memory, a weaver of truth, and now a warrior of voice. When she returned to the surface, those who looked upon her saw something had changed. Her eyes shimmered with pale blue light. Her steps made no sound. And when she spoke, even the wind paused to listen. She was no longer just Queen Lyra. She was Lyra Echoborn, last of the choir, and her voice would be heard by the stars. That night, as King Elian prepared to lead a scouting party toward the Black Tower, a strange phenomenon swept across the kingdom. From mountaintop to valley, in cities and hamlets alike, people heard a song carried on the wind. A haunting, beautiful refrain that stirred courage in the hearts of the meek and froze fear in the bones of the cruel. The sky shimmered. The birds stopped flying. And in the Black Tower, Maelrath the Hollow King opened his eyes for the first time in 1,000 years. He had heard her voice. And he knew the echo had returned. The wind over Velander had changed. It no longer smelled of spring rivers and blooming cypress. It carried the scent of old smoke and distant decay. Where once the birds sang freely, now even the trees stood silent. The Hollow King was stirring. King Elian knew he could not wait for the enemy to come to them. Every day more children fell sick. Shadows grew longer even in full daylight. And the whispers from the west, the terrified rumors of dead things walking again, could not be ignored. It was time to face the dark. Elian stood in the palace armory, before the sacred mirror where kings of old had once donned their warplate. He wore no gold, no crown. Instead, his armor was made of layered green steel and dusk leather, etched with vines and stars. Across his back lay the sword of verdant flame, Velastri, still warm to the touch after 5 centuries asleep. Beside him stood Queen Lyra, now clothed in the soft blue robes of the Echo Singers, lined with silver runes that shimmered when she breathed. "You shouldn't go alone," she said softly. "I won't," Elian replied. "But I must lead." Lyra looked up at him with searching eyes, then placed her hands gently on his face. "Then take my voice with you." She sang, not words but a single pure note. It curled around him like a ribbon of light and settled in the hilt of his sword, embedding a flicker of her magic deep within the metal. "Should you fall," she whispered, "may this remind you of who you are." Elian's party was small, but legendary. Cerro the Grey, the old court mage, now carrying a staff made of dreamwood and star iron. Captain Mora Stonevein, the pirate queen, armed with twin cutlasses engraved with tide magic. Thane Bralder, the forge lord, wielding an axe forged from the heart of a fallen meteor. And Aelin, a young scribe turned spellrunner, whose memory held every known map and forbidden story of the Black Tower. They rode west through the whispering plains and into the withered hills, where the sun dimmed and strange shapes watched from the trees. Villages stood abandoned, and the sky never cleared. On the third night, Cerro lit a ring of protective fire around their camp. "Beyond this point," he said grimly, "even time is thinner. The Hollow King's curse eats not only flesh but memory." Tower awakes. On the 5th day they saw it. The Black Tower. It rose like a broken tooth from the shattered land, twisting toward the sky. The earth around it was scorched and cracked, yet strange green vines pulsed across its base, throbbing like veins. But worse than the sight was the feeling. Elian fell to his knees. He saw flashes, visions not his own. Soldiers screaming as their shadows devoured them. A great city of light, turned to dust in moments. A woman in white, holding a newborn wrapped in song. And then silence. Cerro placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maelrath remembers you." "How can he?" Elian gasped. "We've never met." Cerro looked at him, eyes ancient and sad. "Because some part of you was once there." The veil shatters. That night, as they camped at the tower's edge, a storm rolled in, cloudless, silent and black. The fire dimmed. The runes faded. And from the shadows emerged figures. Not beasts, not men, but echoes, twisted shapes of memory and bone, wearing the faces of lost loved ones, whispering regrets, pulling at the travelers' minds. Bralder fell to his knees, weeping at the vision of his dead brother. Mora cursed and slashed at the shadows, only to find herself striking empty air. Elian, shaking, heard his mother's voice, Queen Seraphine, crying his name from the dark. "You left us." He gritted his teeth, reached for Velastri, and then, Lyrisong. It burst from the blade in his hands, her voice, her light, wrapping around him like a shield. The echoes screamed, dissolving in the brilliance. The false voices faded. The air cleared. The others staggered to their feet, stunned and shaking. Elian looked at the glowing sword and whispered, "You're with me. Always." A door of flesh and stone. At dawn they reached the tower. The vines parted as they approached, revealing a door made not of wood or iron, but of skin and stone, pulsing as if it breathed. Cerro stepped forward. He is not yet fully free, but his mind is. If we go further, there is no promise we return. Elian drew Velastri. "I didn't come for promises." He placed his hand on the door. Opened. The door to the Black Tower creaked open, and there, seated upon a throne of silence, was Maelrath the Hollow King.